Welcome to the Just Loans podcast. My name is Chris, and today we've got a few little things to talk about, actually. So first off, I've got a bit of an update about the guides. Then I want to get on to the new motorhome or camper van that I'm looking to get. Then a survey that I sent out, so got some results to talk about for that. And one of yours was a bit of a knob, so we're going to discuss that in detail. And then we've just gotten back yesterday from a very pretty Polish city. So I want to talk about that, tell you more about that in this episode of the Just Loans podcast. Welcome everybody, hope yous are all doing well. I'm stressed to death. Trying to do anything at all while the kids is off school is basically impossible. And because obviously we're going on holiday on Wednesday, I'm trying to record this on a Sunday, which everyone else seems to think, well, it's not a work day, why are you working? But I'm going older, so I'm going to have to fit it in at some point. So if you hear dogs barking and kids running around and see me get visibly agitated if you're watching this on YouTube, then that's why, because obviously life has to stop because the kids are off school. Why do we let them off school? They were off for a year. Leave them in school permanently. I wish I'd have just sent them to boarding school, I think. But anyway, how's everyone doing? We've been subjected to some beautiful weather lately, and if I'm honest, it's a little bit too hot for me now. It's a bit windy and stuff today, so it is a bit cooler, but I just cannot sleep when it's hot on a night. And then sleeping with a fan on, which is just blowing just mildly cooler air into your mush all night. But we need aircon in this country, I think. But with seeing that, the price of electric, probably not advisable. Anyway, so first off, I wanted to update, and I touched on it briefly when I'd done the last sort of update video, which was the next travel guide that we're working on. That one is the Isle of Mull, and yes, we've got an instant guide for that, but obviously the instant guides are very much different from the proper travel guides, the in-depth ones, which have everything in, the paperback ones, and so on. So yeah, it's been a bit of a long one, that one, in all fairness, because normally we're going backwards and forwards to the place that we are shooting the guide on quite a bit, but we haven't really been away in the van for absolutely ages, and I haven't been to Mull for over a year, so I'm trying to sort of write things in advance of going back so I can get the photos, but then I know for a fact there'll be a lot of other stuff to add once you go, because that's kind of the process. Normally we're backwards and forwards a lot, and you're adding things, taking things off that you think, oh, that'll be good, you get there and it's a big cack. So yeah, I feel like I'm just treading water on that project at the minute. I don't feel like I'm really getting anywhere. What I do feel like I'm making progress on is some photography books as well, which I have been working on for a while, some projects. Not that it clearly interests most people, because people are not that keen on buying photography stuff. Not sure why. But yeah, I'm making some good progress on that, so that's nice. After the Mull guide, it'll be interesting to find out what sort of travel guides people will be interested in next. What are the locations? Because we have, in the survey, which I'll touch on, we've got different ideas for next year, for something slightly different. But I'm planning on, because this year has been a bit of a slow year. We're going to have only released 2 books, one right at the beginning of the year, one right at the end of the year. We have had a bit of a chunk of time off though. But it would be interesting to find out where people would like guides for next. I was thinking maybe Shetland and Orkney and stuff, but again, I'm not sure whether people are that bothered about there, whether you prefer the routes that we actually make rather than just a guide to an area, which everyone seems to make. But we'll get to that a little bit more in the survey results, because that's kind of touching on some of that as well. Next up, I want to mention, so obviously while we're away in Poland, we've seen so many motorhomes and camper vans, and I'm just chomping at the bit to spend a good chunk of time traveling around Europe, hopefully next year in a motorhome. But the motorhomes that I'm looking to get are likely going to be from motorhome, not homes. I'm only getting one. Probably from Oak Tree Motorhomes, which I think is down in Nottingham way. Obviously Darren from Urban Motorhome works with them and has swore by them. But has anyone else used them before? Do you have any advice or feedback about using them? What's the after service been like? Because I know for a fact that no matter whether I buy new or used, I'm going to buy used, to be honest, I think. there's a good chance I'm going to need to get stuff fixed. And it's a drive to get back down there if I need to get bits and bobs worked on. Also, the one that's on the website that I really like the look of at the minute is a Bailey. Never really heard of them. Are they a decent manufacturer or whatever? Or are they not? Has anyone had any experience with them? And again, I'm not bothered about people saying, oh, I don't like the way they do this or this layout or that, because that's just subjective. But just more in terms of like the quality of them. I've always had automatics for a good chunk of time. And when I got my little Panda, my little thing, I forgot, in all fairness, I didn't mind like driving manuals. It's just more longer journeys. I don't know. Like, would I be making a mistake if I got a manual? I love the fact that I can just it's normally I didn't care when you're driving automatics, manuals, they're the same thing. But when you're sitting in traffic, manuals are so tedious compared to an automatic. And sometimes that can happen a fair bit, especially when you live on the A1. You spend almost every day sitting in traffic. So do you think I'm making a bit of a mistake if I go for that? I'm not so sure. But anyway, so I sent out a survey the other day or a week ago or so on to all our mailing list subscribers. If you're not on the mailing list, if you head over to sloansmedia.com, you can sign up and you get a free guide to Scotland's hidden gem. It's a PDF instant guide just for sort of signing up as a thank you to the newsletter. In the mailing list, we send out discount codes, we send out surveys periodically. I'm probably going to start working on the emails a little bit more because I have slacked off massively this year. Had plenty of other things on my mind, as you probably know. But I sent out this survey basically looking, because although we're full pretty much in terms of this year, I don't think our first weekend spare is going to be until nearly November. We've got everything else boxed off and booked in. So we kind of have this year done, but I'm trying to figure out for next year, where do we go? What direction should I start pushing the travel guide business into? Because ultimately it's business. It's there to serve the people who want to visit these places, and hopefully I can help people enjoy trips to these locations. So I was looking for some additional ideas, but also I don't want to always just do the same thing, because that can get a little bit tedious. And if I'm doing, say, I can probably push out 4 guides a year. Providing the places I've been to before and I'm not having to do any new research. But I would rather try different things as well. So basically, what I asked, if I load up me little spreadsheet thing, what I sent out, is I asked, let's have a look. What did I ask? So what type of guides are you actually interested in? So the options that I had were European road trip travel guides. Now, I think this one is where I really want to spend a lot of time, is coming up with road trip routes through Europe. And a bit like the Ultimate Scottish Road Trip on the NC 500 travel guide, if you've bought either of them, you'll know that it's got the route sort of step by step, location by location, all the things and activities and everything else in that spot. That's definitely where I see the future being, is more European road trips. But what else? So the other options were Scottish Island guides, city break travel guides, UK city break travel guides potentially, and that kind of thing, to see what people was. So the feedback we got was that Scottish Islands, obviously, and European road trip travel guides are the most popular. That's what kind of most people want to see. If you've got any opinions on any of this, you can either drop a comment in the Spotify or whatever podcasting platform you're using, or this will also be on YouTube, so you can just drop a comment in there as well. So yeah, that was kind of seemed to be the main thing that most people were interested in. We did ask about ebooks, PDFs, or physical. I much prefer making physical. I like having a tangible thing at the end of it. There is a place for ebooks and PDFs and stuff as well, but the vast majority of people prefer paperbacks, which is pretty cool, because that's what I like to make. Some did show an interest in city break travel guides as well, which I think would be cool. It would be nice to have, because when we're visiting these places, obviously I take a lot of photographs of them anyway, and I plan it almost how I'd be planning a bit of a guide before I even head there. I like planning. I like knowing where we want to go and do, like what we want to go and see and what to do. And often when you're looking at YouTube videos and stuff, it's just the same crap. Just like an AI voice over some stock footage of each place. Like when I've done the one that for Gdansk where I've just been, and the videos are pretty awful. Or it's sort of vloggers that are visiting a place and they think the video is about them rather than just tell us what the top 10 things are. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care who you are. I'm there for information, not for you. So I thought that might have a place. So maybe that's something that you're interested in. The next thing that I asked is because Danny kind of come up with this idea last year and I didn't end up doing it, is basically a 2025 calendar. Now, Danny loves a calendar. We've got one in the kitchen. It's got my entire life already planned on it. I don't even need to know I don't need to have an opinion as to what I'm doing. It's on the calendar. She's decided that in advance for me. And I didn't realise that so many people might be interested in a calendar. So I sent out saying, would you be interested in one? And the vast majority of respondents expressed a massive interest in a 2025 calendar. There was about 15% that weren't interested out of the people that replied to the survey. So yeah, surprised by that. If you would be interested in a calendar, I would probably recommend getting amongst the mailing list, because that's where the updates will go for that. I'll probably do a pre-order, a discounted pre-order for anyone who obviously pre-orders it, which is what the word pre-order means, I suppose. And then obviously once the pre-order's done and they're ordered, then they'll go up to the normal price. So I will look to at least get something put up probably for that in the next month or so. So if you are interested in that, that would be good. But I was also wondering, what are other people interested in? Because for me, photography is my thing. That's what I do. That's what I enjoy, and that's where I want to spend a vast majority of my time. Obviously, I love writing the travel guides, but it's more the photography side of it that I like. Photography seems to be a pretty common hobby with most of the respondents. Not everyone, but a decent chunk. So, yeah, I don't know what to sort of take of some of this, because a lot of people have said that they're interested in Lightroom presets, which is fine. I don't mind doing that sort of thing. The digital, it's not an issue. I've got some, in all fairness, I have been working on for a while, that sort of replicate film looks. So they may be coming soon. But then there's a decent chunk of people that were interested in photography books and zines. Now, if this is true, I'll be over the moon, because that is really what I love doing. I love working on a photography project. I've been working on one from sort of like religious buildings and churches that we've sort of seen and visited over the entire last year. I've been working on that for quite a bit of time now, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's going to be a bit of a long project, probably not be finished this year, maybe next year. And I love working on projects like that. I've got another one that I'm sort of early doors at, but I love that kind of thing. So there's a good chunk of people say that they would be interested in photography books. The downside with that, though, is the cost to print a photography book is vast. It's high. It's expensive. It's a lot of work, a lot of effort. You kind of just chuck something together. I have done previously in terms of, I've done the Gowl one last year as like an annual book. And then I'd done the Borderlands special edition with a photography book that came with it as well. That went down well. We sold all the limited edition versions of that. So I may look to bring out some others as and when I'm working on it. A few people mentioned the photography zines, which I've done, but in all fairness, we haven't really had many people buy them when I brought them out. I would love to do them, because you can do them a lot quicker, they're not as big of a task to create either. To sequence and have printed, because it's just like a little stapled brief, like booklet, I suppose. But people were interested in them. Again, I don't know how true these are, because it's in not that many people have ordered them. But anyway, that was the feedback. What else did I ask? Yeah. So most people seem to be interested in like Norway, Sweden, Finland, which were like obviously the Nordics No, Norwegian, like the Scandinavian, that's the one, countries. So that is obviously where, in all fairness, that be completely open. I was hoping this year to have had a road trip guide for Norway, to be fair, but we just haven't had time. And really, it's going to take us a good chunk of time visiting it to make sure we can box it all off, and probably a lot of support from other people who spend a lot more time there than I'll be able to. But that is on the list, so don't worry about that. A lot of you, when I asked for any further comments, obviously asked about YouTube and would we be back and stuff, and nah, probably not in terms of the vlog stuff. I might try a different format, which is pretty low impact. I don't know though, because it really does take away, and that might sound a little bit, I don't know, a bit over the top, but it really does affect your trip. Your trip's then just making a video, not the trip. And it's hard because a lot of what I can remember of all these beautiful road trips and stuff we've been on is just watching the video, because I spend more time editing the video than I'd probably do being present. Well, not probably, definitely more time editing the video and looking at the content I've shot than I do actually just being present while I'm there in the first place. So it's a little bit hard. And if I'm honest, I've loved every minute since I stopped making the videos, and that's maybe it's not what some of you want to hear, but it's the truth. And I suppose I've got to enjoy doing something, because what's the point in traveling to all these amazing places if I'm not enjoying the trip and I didn't enjoy making the video? There's not really much point. So I appreciate the feedback and the support. I love that so many of you enjoyed the videos and got a lot from them. I'm not saying there'll not be any at all, but I don't think they'll be the way they were before if I bring anything out. But that said, I still need to figure out what I'm going to do in my life, and that could end up being part of it, and I have to sort of just get on with it. But I just don't feel like video content is really a thing anymore. I am going to start with writing a blog again. I enjoy that kind of thing. And I just feel like YouTube, because subscribers and sort of your subscriber base is just completely irrelevant now. It means nothing. Like if I've got 14,500 subscribers, you'd think every video you post, you're going to get minimum of 10,000 as a bare minimum. That's never the case. No one gets to see it. The numbers mean absolutely nothing. So what are you working for? The only way to get anywhere with anything is to just make so much fake dramatic crap that gets picked up, and it's drama. The algorithm chucks it about because people are like, oh, wonder what really happened. Did someone break into the van? No, it's just a clickbait title and all that. And I just didn't want to be part of that. So I appreciate the comments, but I don't know where we're going to be with that. May come back. Might not. I don't know. But podcasts, I'm trying to, because it's a low impact, I can sit in the house and do it. I am going to try and do a little bit more with that. Now, I did get one comment that I want to read out, because I think it's just a bit sad, to be fair. So one of the comments, I'll read it word for word. You are not a professional photography. Sorry. Focus on travel and travel guides. Sorry it's late and had a few rum and cokes. Thanks for that completely useless reply that you've sent. I don't understand. Maybe it's a jealousy thing. Maybe it's a bitterness or an insecurity. Well, it clearly is insecurity. For people to have comments like that, I got it and I just thought, actually, I'm going to read it out on the next video I do. Like, what is a professional photographer? Is it someone, like, what is it that you see that is? If it's making money from photography, I do that. If it's having a professional attitude, which it is, I have that. If it's working at it every day, I have that. I'm experiencing it. I don't understand what people, like, if you said you were a professional Christian, what does it look like if you are or you're not? They're both the same thing. If you say you're something like that, then you are. I mean, I couldn't say I'm a professional solicitor or lawyer, presumably, without passing a test. The INTI test in the arts failed. Whether you like the photography I create or not is irrelevant. It's subjective. No one else could. I could have photos that not a single person in the entire world bar me likes and still be a professional photographer. So I hope you feel better about yourself soon, and whatever misery you have maybe is going on in your life where you feel the need to comment on any further comment section of a survey to tell someone that they're not a professional photographer or photography, as you put it. So, yeah. But then, strangely, put the additional interests, photography, zines. So, I don't understand. Anyhow, we'll move on from that. So, yesterday afternoon, what day is it? Yeah, no, Friday even, we got back from Gdansk in Poland. What a place. Thoroughly impressed by that place. If you're looking for a city break, I mean, if I had to just pick one city break out of any of the cities I've ever been to, it would be Copenhagen in Denmark. Unbelievable place. The only downside about Copenhagen is it'll absolutely ruin every other city for you because it's pretty much the perfect city. The people are friendly. The place is immaculate. It's just really well thought out. There's history there. The food's lush. Like, I loved it there. And then you come back to England and you're like, what is this? I mean, our country, in all fairness, let's just be honest, it's knackered. It needs just Control, Alt, and Delete, shut down, start from scratch, because I don't even want to get into it, to be fair, but Britain is knackered, and people will be like, well, England is, Scotland, we all are. Scotland, I can't even say anything that might offend anyone without the chance of going to jail, and it looks like England's gone that way as well. So it is a little bit of a joke. But Copenhagen, if you're looking for a city break and you've never been, get there. Amazing, you'll love it. And so basically I wanted to go to Krakow. Now, I've been dying to see Auschwitz and I love the sort of history of all that sort of stuff, but I couldn't get flights since Newcastle Airport just didn't have anywhere interesting flying out very regularly. But they did have Gdansk, which is northern Poland. It's like a coastal area. So I booked that only about a week before we went. Didn't really know anything about it other than it was in Poland. Checked on Google, some nice pretty photographs. And in all fairness, it's lovely. Very much loved this place. We ended up being there for 6 nights. I think from Newcastle, you can get there direct, but it's a Sunday early hours, like 6 o'clock flight, and you fly back on the Friday. I think them are the only direct out and in flights, so that's what we've done. We stayed in the Novotel, now Flash, but it's just a relatively budget hotel right in the centre. It was perfect. The location was ideal. Not on the main strip, but about less than 100 metres from it. So it wasn't too noisy late on a night or anything, but you were still within like stumbling distance if that's what you're interested in. I think in total, the booking by the time we played for a car park and that was about £1,000, but for a full week, for the two, well, nigh on a full week for the two of us, it's not that bad really. And honestly, I loved the place. So I'm going to put up, if you're watching on YouTube, I'll put some photographs up as I sort of talk, just so you can see some of the different places and stuff, because it was a very pretty place. Churches and all that was amazing. There was so many different, I think there was about 11 churches, all of them huge, loads of history. They had like stuff there showing you before and after, because obviously they're being destroyed and stuff like that in the war. Very amazing place. One thing I loved about it there as well, and it sounds a little bit daft, is just how Polish it was. Like, to me, that's what it should be like. You know, and Spain's a different type of holiday anyway, but you go to Spain and it's just England, but hot. Like, I hate that. It does my head in. It's all the same stuff that you get here. Just everything. It's just England, and I can't deal with it. And I'm sure there's many parts of Spain where it's not, but most parts it is. I like to go somewhere where it is what it is. I mean, imagine the disappointment in people's faces if they come to England and realise there's nothing English in England. But I loved it there. Very Polish. Everyone was friendly. They're not so keen on saying hello when they go for a walk. It's a British thing, I suppose. But when me and Danny, we found this lovely little route that walks all the way around the outside and past these shipyards. Like, you can just mooch about it. And even when they're cracking on building ships and that, you can still just walk around. They'd have the whole area cordoned off if there's a likelihood someone could be cutting grass for health and safety in this country. There, they weren't that bothered. I mean, there was actually blokes when we were on our way back to the airport on the motorway with like grass trimmer, like strimmer things, cutting the grass in the central reservation on the motor without any high-vis gear on, knee cones, knee safety equipment at all. And like, that was a bit sketchy. But other places, you just had to kind of get around stuff. But anyway, as we were walking around, it's just a habit. I'll say like morning or hello or whatever to people. And yeah, the Poles are not really interested in that. I look like a bit of a lunatic, and after a while, I stopped doing it because I thought no one's going to say hello back. I think one person did, but they were definitely English. So yeah, that's not their thing. But yeah, it was a very Polish place. The mix of like new and old, they're building a lot. I don't know if it's a bit of a show of how ruined the economy is at home. And I know it might sound a bit doom and gloom, but in all fairness, we are knackered in the UK. We're a mess. But like you go to the cities here and everything's knackered, whereas there they were building a lot. I mean, there was still that mix of very old Soviet looking stuff that was like ran down. But I like that. It was when we went to Zagreb. Zagreb was just all like that, a little bit rough. But I liked Zagreb as well, to be fair, not as much as Copenhagen and stuff. But this one, there were like everything that they built. It looked like they've rebuilt a lot of the city, but they built it to look how it would have looked, not kind of just in a new Bellway housing estate style like we do with everything here. Very pretty place. Great mix of sort of new and old buildings, and the ice cream and food. I don't know who it is that must have introduced ice cream to the Polish people, but it's like they've sort of trying to make up for some shortcomings that they've got, because the ice cream, I'll pop a photo on screen, and this isn't just one ice cream. They were all like that. So however long, say, I don't know, the cone itself might be, say, 4 inches or something, and the ice cream's at least that, again, sticking up vertical. Like I didn't trust myself having that. I'd be wearing it. Oh, and these thing, what were they called? I think it's called a donut ice cream. I'll see if I can find a picture of it. So it's like this donut cone with like sugar and stuff on. The one I got was a donut cone with this like pistachio sauce stuff in the inside, filled with ice cream. Then pistachios around the edge of the cone section, and then obviously on the ice cream part itself, this pistachio sauce stuff drizzled around it again. Unreal. My teeth nearly ran out my face to get away from that sugar. I was off my lips for about 3 hours after that, the amount of sugar. But wow, what a invention that is. I'm very surprised. I've never seen them in the UK. I mean, they might be here. If you've seen them before, if you're watching on YouTube, let us know where else does them. Because the kids, I've been trying to tell the kids about them, because it was just me and Danny. Because, it's an actual holiday, not the holidays you get on with the kids where there's no holiday in it. I've been showing the kids, but there's obviously, I don't think anywhere makes a kind of thing in the UK that I've found before. So yeah, I did thoroughly enjoy it. In terms of cost, I always thought Poland was a bit cheap. I thought you could like pretty much live like a king in Poland without money, but I don't know if maybe that was true years ago and now it's not, because our economy's knackered and theirs is I think theirs is like the third best sort of growth rate in the EU or whatever for however many years by Google's stuff anyway. But it wasn't expensive, but it was probably not any cheaper than it is here for food and stuff. Strangely, some places seemed really cheap. I mean, like basic stuff, like you can buy like a bottle of water from their Sapka or whatever it's called. I think is their like version of like a little supermarket thing. I think you buy like 2 bottles for like the equivalent of like 50 pence, whereas they rip you for water here and just put fluoride in your gob instead. But the other stuff was just sort of similar price to what we get at home. If you like your beer and your craft stuff, I love a nice IPA, and everywhere sold IPA, which was nice actually. Unusual, because most places you go, no one knows what IPA is. And even in this country still at the minute, some places that's all they're selling. They've got a massive range, and other places you can, and no one has a clue what you're talking about when you say have you got an IPA. They think it's like an STD or something. Another thing, and one of the sort of last things I suppose about Gdansk is the sort of safety side of it. Normally when I'm in a busy city, like you feel like there might be little pickpockets or something lurking, and either these were just mint at it, or there's just really wasn't any. I didn't feel like that. When you just feel like people are close to you. Even when it was rammed in the first few days, it was heaving because there was this big festival thing on. And it just felt sound. Even there was less homeless people that I seen than what there is in like Durham where I live now. There wasn't much of that going on. It seemed like sort of I think the feeling I got from it was like as if everyone's doing about the same. Obviously, there's some people that were doing worse. There was some homeless people and some people that clearly didn't have a lot. But it seemed like everyone was kind of in a similar boat where the disparity between like sort of people with and without in this country especially seems to be quite big and getting bigger, whereas there it kind of didn't seem like that. So, but now in terms of like safety and that, even down the little sort of what you would look at as a bit dodgy back streets and stuff, were fine. They just looked a little bit rougher when you were out the way. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. One thing I also got for the trip or before the trip, for anyone watching on YouTube, is this. This is me Fujifilm X106 film. Well, not film camera, digital camera, and it is. I've been hesitant to say it, but I think it's my favorite camera I've ever owned by an absolute mile. It's sensational. It's been so built up over the last few years, these like Fuji X100 cameras, that sometimes you just think, nah, it's all a load of cack, really. But so anyway, I managed to get my hands on one thanks to the lads at London Camera Exchange. What a shop that is, actually. I'm going to get on a little one about that. So you know when you get into shops these days and no one gives a shit. Like it's the least personable, the least friendly. People are just doing the minimum they need to do and then going home. Well, when you go to the Gosforth one or Newcastle branch of London Camera Exchange, it's the exact opposite. They are all the nicest groups of people I think I've ever met, but all in one shop. It's like they've took the 5 or so best staff in the Northeast and popped them in one tiny little camera shop. They're friendly, they're helpful, they're not, all of them know what they're talking about. They're all into photography themselves. They're just fantastic. In fact, I would say they were that good one time that I actually wrote a letter, an email. I'm not going back that old school. I wrote an email to head office to praise how good they are. That's how good they are. Makes a huge difference, that. So if anyone is looking, especially if you're in the Northeast and you just want to sort of go somewhere where you can try things or look at things or just talk to people who know what they're talking about and who actually want to help, London Camera Exchange, the shop in, I think it's like Gosforth Way. I couldn't really recommend them highly enough. Phenomenal. But anyway, they managed to get us one of these. Someone had bought it, not liked it, traded it straight in. They'd held it for 24 hours for someone while they were meant to be buying it, and he didn't end up buying it. So they kept it for me, and I wasn't sure. I thought if I buy it and I didn't like it, I can just sell it for more than I even bought it if I want to, because you kind of get them. But I ended up trying it, and I thought, actually, I quite like it. And then the more I've used it, the more I love it. It's sensational. And if you want to be like a little pretendy film photographer, like this is me other new camera, which is a Leica MP. This thing cost quite a bit. I'm a little bit ashamed to explain how much this cost with the lens as well. About £7,500. Considered a film camera, not even medium format. But they kind of look the same. Nowhere near as light, as heavy as this Leica is, and obviously not built quite to the same standards, but it looks cool as well, which is a nice thing to have. Because in all fairness, with cameras, like quality's just, it's not a huge thing anymore. They're all really good. And I mean, obviously it is very good quality wise, but it's more for me, do I want to take it somewhere? And with this, the answer is yes. I mean, obviously it looks a decent size, but if I take, because I've got this lens hood on, again, which you didn't need on, I just like the look of it. Look at the size of that. You can just pop it in the pocket. Depending on whether you've got MC Hammer's pants on or not. But if you want to just chuck it in a bag, fantastic. If anyone's looking to get into photography, these, or if you'd love to do film photography, but you cannot afford, or you don't want the hassle of learning like developing film or scanning film, that kind of thing, get one of these and start playing around with the recipes. I absolutely love it. I might even do, I don't know whether I class it as a review video, but I might do something to talk about, because I've been so impressed, and I've taken probably about 2,000 photos in the space of, I don't know, 3 weeks. Honestly, I cannot recommend it highly enough. So yes, I think that's pretty much everything covered that I wanted to cover today. I'll probably put a link maybe in the description about the calendar for if you are interested in potentially pre-ordering one if there's one coming out. I will probably put a pre-order up there so you can have a look. It'll be like one of them wall calendars with a little section under each date so you can fill in what you've got planned that day and so on and so forth. And yeah, I'll have to figure out how much it's going to cost and all the rest of it. Like I said, Danny was going on and on last year for us to do one. I didn't end up doing it. I think she just wanted one for the house for us. And she was like, people buy them. I'm like, no one buys calendars. You've got a phone. It turns out one, Danny buys them, and everyone else seems to be interested in it as well. So thanks for listening. If you are interested in a trip to Gdansk, I will probably be creating a city break guide for Gdansk. Gdansk? Yeah, Gdansk. Which will just be like a PDF sort of travel guide just to help you get the most out of your trip there. I would highly recommend it. Like I say, you can fly from Newcastle direct. If you live in Manchester and stuff or near that way, you can obviously fly there direct from Manchester, as far as I'm aware, as you can in Scotland as well. If you're from the northeast, you can actually fly from Newcastle, which is nice. Horrible airports, aren't they? Horrible. Newcastle's new scanners are good, though. You didn't have to take all your stuff out your little bag, which is ideal. So thanks for listening, and I'll see yous in the next one. Goodbye.